Good evening, Magic players and card collectors of all kinds. Plus all you puggy lovers out there too. Welcome back to the channel. I'm just gonna put this out there as an intro slash outro kind of thing for my Super Deck Sunday video. The Saturday video I decided I'm not going to put out today. I might put it out tomorrow, or I might just not put it out this week. Sometimes things just happen, right? They do. Speaking of which, Kyla is completely drained. That car ride was terrible, to be perfectly honest, for him. Both directions, it's just too hot to travel in the summer. Hopefully when I'm on my vacation the next time in the fall, it'll be a better choice to make trips like that, but as far as summers go, he doesn't like AC, and with the windows down, it was fine as long as it wasn't bumper-to-bumper traffic, but every time we hit that, it just became so hot, and he was just, I felt so bad. I was really worried about him. So I've got him cooled off in the house, and I'm just kind of letting him sleep it off, and hopefully he'll bounce back and be his normal self tomorrow morning. But in the meantime, in between time, I present to you this commander deck. I believe I picked the No One Will Survive deck for you guys this week, if I remember correctly. If not, I've given you the wrong deck as I go in, which will be really funny for you guys when you actually see the real deck. Hopefully you'll enjoy the deck profile, and yeah. I will make a note now that we also didn't get as much footage as I wanted over the weekend, so I probably don't really have enough to put together a proper video of Kata's adventures over the weekend. He just wasn't interested in being filmed, and I'm not going to force it on him at all by any means. He played around with my friend Kai's dog, Reese, and had a really good time with that. So I think they're friends from before, of course, because they've met each other many times, but I think they really enjoyed each other's company over the weekend, but like I say, that drive was just too much for them. So anyways, that's all I got for you tonight. Do tune in this week, though, to the Dollarama Draws of Destiny, because it's going to be an interesting one. I found a new style of packs that I haven't seen for at least quite a while, if I've ever seen them before. Maybe I haven't seen them before, though, either. Can't tell you for sure. But, yeah. Anyways, enjoy the video. Much love to you all from Kata Inside, and I to you to take care, and, see you guys on Monday for the final vacation log. Bye! Getting a look at Kaba the Pug as I get ready to do the video. Spoilers in the background of the shot. Don't look at those. Focus on the pug, pug, pug. No, not having any of it. Oh, damn. Really? Again? Yeah? It's gonna be like that all night, isn't it? Yeah? Alright. Well, I think this is the last one I need to shoot. Because the last vacation log I won't have to do until Monday. And I don't have to do the jump start until Monday. And we should be back on Sunday after this airs. In theory. Okay, Kaba, it's just a little kitty. Anyway, this video is brought to you by, I don't know, I was going to do something funny there, but I lost the interest in it. Yes, you're distracting me. You're making it hard for me to concentrate on my ribs and my jokes and my funny things that I say. Yes, you're very upset. Do I need to turn off the TV? I'll turn off the TV if I have to. No? No, you need to keep it on so you can yell at the people? Can I work on my stuff? Okay, thank you. So, in theory,
I've already done it, but just in case I forget when I actually do the intro. Welcome to Super Deck Sunday! Alright, so this is going to be, I think, episode like 14 of Super Deck Sunday? 13 or 14, I can't remember which. But I decided to do the video I've been talking about. Holy crow, Kaiba, let it go! Let it go! Oh my goodness. It's hard to focus when somebody gets so riled up about the TV. Anyways, I decided I was going to do the deck for you guys that I've been talking about doing for a while. It is my sacrifice deck. It is red and black, and it is all about everything dying. I commit lots of crimes, I do lots of fun stuff, and I get rid of everything that I possibly consider a threat. So, how do I go about this, you ask? Well, I call this deck... Now, what did I call this deck? I want to say it's No One Will Survive. I'm pretty sure that's what I call it. It's supposed to be based off of a song that I like. That is like an intro to a wrestler theme, actually. It's a wrestler's theme, I believe. But anyways, I'm pretty sure that's what I called this, was No One Will Survive. And as you see me go through this, you'll understand why the deck is the way it is. I am going to point out that I am going to do things a little bit differently than normal, although I am going to do Secret Commander, so we'll see if you guys can guess it before the end. I do personally feel like I'm going to do my regular way across, but then I'm going to skip the sorceries, go to instants, and I'm going to come back to these afterwards, because first I want to do creatures, and then I'm going to show you this pile, and then I'm going to show you the commander. So that is the plan. But first, let's go through the lands. Now, there are a couple dual mode lands. I've got Blood-Soaked Insight, which costs 1 less to cast for each life your opponent's lost this turn. Target opponent exiles the top 3 cards of their library until the end of the next turn. You can play those cards, and if you cast a spell, you can use mana of any type. Which is awesome, because red-black is kind of limited in being able to play spells that it steals, unless, you know. And then I also have a Song of the Mad Ruins here, which flips over to be Song Mad Treachery. You gain control of a target creature until end of turn. Untap that creature, gains haste until end of turn. Typically, I try to play both these as lands because the lands, you'll note, are a little bit on the shy side of the count. I think there's 33, but there might be less than that even. We'll see when we get to the end of this. The next few lands are just some nice good tap lands. Scrying, giving me some life, and then we get into the basics. If you actually care about basic art being the same, you will constantly hate my deck profiles because I pick whichever artwork I feel suits the deck at the time. I actually kind of should have put that one in the burn deck, but that's okay. I didn't have the burn deck built at the time. And then we ended off with the Temple of the False Gods and a High Market. The High Market is especially valuable because it lets me sacrifice a creature or gain a life if I don't want to use it for mana. 30 lands in total, so I know that's on the shy side. It is a double land, oh my gosh. It is a 2-color deck, so I feel like I can get away with that, especially because of the artifacts pile that I'm about to show you. But I do understand why a lot of people would look at that and go, man, you are running a dangerous game, per se. And if the mana curve was higher, I would agree with you, but I find that this actually is feasible with 30 lands. Especially because, oh, that's enchantments. I actually want to do artifacts first. Especially because of the artifacts pile, which we've got a Vanefire Border Post to give us some land, to give us some extra mana. And I really like this one because you can pay 1 and return a land. So basically, if this land is in play, Or no, it has to be a basic land. If I have like a swamp in play, I can tap said swamp, return it to my hand, and then I can put this into play. And it comes in untapped, which is pretty cool. Or no, it comes into play tapped. Damn, never mind. I also have a Rakdos signet. It's not my favorite version of land artifacts that generate mana, but sometimes you really need to just pay the one color to get the right color you need, and this is a great filter way to do that. I also have a Bandit's Hall. This felt very on flavor for the Western themed deck that I built here. Whenever you commit a crime, you put a loot counter on this thing, only once per turn. You add 1 mana of any color when you tap it, or you can pay 2, tap it, remove 2 loot counters, and draw a card. Typically, I don't do the second ability. I typically just focus on using this for extra mana. Then we get into some of the nonsense stuff. We got Ariad's Tempting Apple. When it enters the battlefield, you get to gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap that creature, it gains haste until end of turn. Then you can pay 2 and tap this thing to sacrifice it, and you gain 3 life. Or you can pay 2, tap this thing, sacrifice it, and make somebody else lose 3 life. Either way, lots of good stuff there in terms of like you can do crime stuff there with it on multiple turns or on the same turn. Sylvok Lifestaff is a great card for this deck in particular because whenever the equipped creature is put into a graveyard, you gain 3 life. As I say, this deck is called No One Will Survive for a reason, as you'll see. And so gaining 3 life every time I send something to the grave is pretty solid. Dissection Tools, for example, lets me send stuff to the graveyard. When this thing enters, I manifest Dread, then attach this thing to that creature. I'm not a huge fan of the manifest Dread nonsense for this card, but the equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has Death Touch and Lifelink, so it's better than a Basilisk Caller, which is pretty awesome. And to equip it to something else, you have to sacrifice a creature, which is pretty neat. Because I want to sacrifice stuff in this deck, so it gives me another excuse. And then finally you got Brass's Tunnel Grinder, which enters the battlefield, you discard any number of cards, then you can draw that many cards at the beginning of your end step. If you descended this turn, which is going to be a lot of descending in this deck, you put a board counter on this thing. If there are 3 or more board counters on it, you remove those counters, and it becomes a really cool legendary land that taps for red, and whenever you cast a permanent spell using mana produced by this thing, you get to discover X, where X is that mana value, that spell's mana value. So basically, this is just a great way to get a whole bunch of extra creature stuff going. I really like this card in this deck in particular. But yeah, having 3 extra cards that give mana just helps fix the curve a little bit more, I find. And yeah, we'll go on to enchantments. I'm still recording, right? Yes, okay, good. I've got a Demonic Ruckus in here, mostly because it's on flavor, and also just because I really like what this thing does. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1, has Menace and Trample. When this card is put into a graveyard, you draw a card. I don't typically plot this card, but it does have that option as well, which is pretty nice. Ghoulish Procession is a good card for this deck. Whenever a non-token creature dies, I get to make a 2/2 black zombie creature. With Decayed, it only happens once each turn, but it does happen on other people's turns, and it doesn't apply to just my creatures. So if something dies on somebody else's board on a turn, I still get a zombie, which is awesome. What's particularly great about these zombies is, normally I hate zombies with Decayed, because once you attack with a zombie with Decayed, it has to be sacrificed. But in this case, sacrificing stuff is really beneficial to me, so hooray, hurrah. Vampiric Rites, just another great sacrifice engine. Gives me life and a card every time I use it. Goblin Bombardment, Goblin Bombardment is another great way to sacrifice stuff, deal 1 damage to any target. And At Knife Point is just another card that's on flavor with this deck. When it's my turn, Outlaws have First Strike. There's a lot of creatures in this deck that are Outlaws. And whenever I commit a crime, I get to put a red mercenary creature token into play, which lets you tap it and give creature that you control +1/+0 until end of turn. Pretty good. You only get one mercenary per turn, so you try to keep your crimes to like one per turn as much as you can until you absolutely have to do multiple turns. But overall, still solid. Probably haven't guessed the commander yet, but you're starting to see the strategy take form a little bit here with some of the sacrificing stuff and some of that other random cards that I played. So we skip the sorcery pile. Instant pile is really small. Just contains another chance, which lets me mill 2 cards and return 2 creatures. So gives me a solid chance to descend, and also gives me a chance to get some stuff back. Offer of Immortality to protect a creature in a particular instance. And waste management is insane. Pay 2 and a black to put into play, pay 3 and that black extra to kick it. You exile 2 creature cards from a single graveyard, or 2 target cards from a single graveyard, sorry. But if it's kicked, you exile the entire graveyard. And then for every creature that gets exiled this way, you get to make a 2/2 black rogue creature token. So just an insane way to populate your board really fast with a whole bunch of stuff, assuming you get it off decently late into the game. Great way to protect yourself too if somebody's swinging out at you. Create a whole bunch of blockers. The creatures I've divided up into 4 sections. The first section is just stuff that's fun to play with. The second section is stuff that's fun to kill. The third section is stuff that does the killing. And the fourth section is the stuff that benefits from the killing. So the fun stuff that's just fun to play with, it's 4 and a black for a 3/5 Vampire Warlock, flying. And you can pay 1 and a black, tap this, and pay life instead of paying the mana value of the next spell you want to cast. So I find that this is a great card to play on my opponent's turn. I don't have to keep up nearly as much mana as I normally would to play some instants. Not that they know that I have so few instants in my deck, but if I had more instants, this would be a great way to play those instants without actually having to pay for them. And so it keeps people guessing what I'm actually going to use it for. Typically, I use that ability more so to play some of the bigger sorcery spells and some of the bigger creatures, if need be, but more so than anything else, she's just in here because she's got flying and she's a 3/5, so just a great way to smack people. And she counts as an outlaw. Nightblade Brigade is an insanely awesome card for this deck. Kudos to Dragonstorm Tarkir. First off, 1/3 with Death Touch, so if he does get blocked, he's taking whatever he's blocking down with him. When he enters the battlefield, he also lets me surveil 1, which is a great way to get some descent stuff going. And he has Mobilize 1, so he's going to bring in an extra creature each turn when he attacks, and that creature's going to get sacrificed, which is just another great way to trigger stuff. Vile Smasher, Gleeful Grenadier, whenever another outlaw enters the battlefield, he deals 1 damage to target opponent. There's a lot of outlaws in this deck, so he's going to just trigger a bunch of times throughout the game, which is great. Mine Raider, has Trample. It's a 3/2 for 2 and a red. Biggest thing about him is when he comes into play, as long as I have another outlaw, say my Grenadier, for example, I get a treasure token, which is great. And he's one of those ones that I want to keep bringing back from the graveyard because I can keep getting treasure tokens off him. Direfleet Daredevil, 1 and a red for 2/1, has first strike. When he enters, I exile an instant or sorcery from an opponent's graveyard, and I can cast that spell this turn by paying mana as though it were any type. And then I get to exile that spell once I've played it, which is pretty cool. Magda Horde the Master. You can make crime, you get to make another treasure token with this one, so that's 2 treasure tokens I'm getting potentially, for example with Mine Raider. in one turn. And if you sacrifice 3 treasure tokens, you get a 4/4 Scorpion Dragon token that's flying in haste. I'm typically not going to do that. I'm using my treasures, obviously, to help compensate for the lack of mana, but still, overall, pretty good guy. Misfortune Teller. This one is an awesome one in this deck, and I love the full art on this one. Whenever Misfortune Teller enters the battlefield or deals damage to a player, I get to exile a card from a graveyard. If that card was a creature, I make a rogue. If it was a land, I make a treasure. Otherwise, I get 3 life. So no matter what, I'm getting some solid value out of this, and because it has Death Touch, typically people are going to throw something in front of this, unless they have just like a cheap token or something. Gonti is in here mostly just to be really annoying. Again, Death Touch is always great. He is a rogue, so he does count as another one of those beautiful outlaws. So that means he's also going to have first strike with knife point on my turn. And when he enters, I get to take a look at the top 4 cards of somebody's library, exile one of them face down. I can play that card at any time, as long as he's on the field. And I can use mana as though or any type of mana to spit that spell, which is great. Said great a lot in this video, my goodness. Getting tired, you can tell. Graveblade Marauder, this one's another one with Death Touch, and when this one swings, if it deals combat damage, a player loses half their life, or loses life equal to the number of creature cards in my graveyard, which typically is going to be a decent amount, if my deck is doing what it's supposed to do well. There is a card that I'm considering putting in this deck, and if I do put it in, it would probably go in to replace this, which would then go into my red and black damage deck, just because that one has a lot more instants in it. It's the only switch I'm considering making right now, since doing all the updates this week. But for now, I've left it the way it is, because I just honestly was too tired to do any more switching and finagling. And I have no idea what I'm going to pull out of the red-black deck to put that in, if I do so. Next we're just going to keep going in order. Nope, I was right. I wanted to grab that one. So we've got, these are all the creatures that want to die, or at least that come back from the graveyard really easily. So for example, whenever I commit a crime, I can pay black. If I do, I can put this guy back on the battlefield. So he's easy sacrifice fodder, 1 to put into play, 1 to sacrifice, or 1 to bring back every time. Rekindling Phoenix is awesome because it's a little expensive to put into play, but it's a 4/3 with flying, and when it dies, I make an elemental creature token, and that token gets sacrificed at my upkeep to bring this guy back from the graveyard to the battlefield, and he gains haste. So I can just keep recurring the Phoenix, and then making the token, and then sacrificing the token to recur the Phoenix, and so on and so forth. Lackey, Reckless Lackey, first strike haste. He wants to be sacrificed because he lets you draw a card and create a treasure token. If you pay his cost to sacrifice himself to himself. Persistent Specimen, 2 and a black to bring this back from the battlefield to the from the graveyard to the battlefield tapped, 1 to put it into play. Servant of the Stinger, 1 and a black. Whenever you deal combat damage with this guy, if you committed a crime, you can sacrifice it. If you do, you get to look in your library for a card and put it into your hand. Pretty solid. Greedy Freebooter wants to die. He's a 1 black for a 1/1, and when he dies, you get to scry 1 and then create a treasure token. Riveteer's Requisitioner, 1 and a red for a 3/1. When it dies, you create a treasure token, so you want it to die often. You can also blitz it in, which means it comes in, gains haste, and when it dies, you also get to draw a card, and you sacrifice it at the beginning of the end step. So you're going to get a treasure token and a draw off this if you pay the blitz cost, which is pretty cool. Dockside Chef, 1 black for a 1/2, and he, oh no, he's in the wrong pile. He goes in this pile. Or no, this pile. My bad. He's coming up next. Golgari Thug is one that I want to send to the graveyard often because when I do, I get to put a creature from my graveyard onto the library, top of my library, and I can dredge 4 to bring this guy back, so just a great way to also descend stuff. And Reassembling Skeleton, another one that's easy enough to bring back from the graveyard to the battlefield, and so just great sacrifice fodder. Then we've got all the stuff that likes to kill stuff. Infernal Captor likes to exploit a creature when it comes into play, and then it lets me steal a creature until end of turn from somebody else. It lets me steal an artifact or creature from somebody else until end of turn, which is pretty good. Boneyard Desecrator has Menace, he's a 3/4, and you can pay 1 in a black, sacrifice something else, put a +1/+1 counter on him. If you sacrifice an Outlaw, you get to create a treasure token in addition, so pretty good. Arya, Widow of the Realm, she's awesome. She, first off, lets you tap and sacrifice a creature or an artifact. She deals X damage to target opponent, where X, and you gain X life, where X is the mana value's permanent. The permanent's mana value. My goodness. So, as long as you're not sacrificing tokens with her, you're going to at least get a couple life and deal some damage to something. And then you can pay 5 and Phyrexian Red to transform her, and she becomes this insanely beastie girl over here, 4/4. Beginning combat on your turn, you can return 1 target artifact or creature from your graveyard to the battlefield. It gains haste, but you have to exile at the beginning of the next end step. Now, ideally, if you sacrifice it and it's no longer on the field, I don't think you have to exile it anymore. So, as long as you can kill it in between when you start combat and the end step, you're pretty good. And as you've seen in this deck, there's lots of ways to do that, so I'm not too worried. Next we got Kethek, Crucible Goliath. This one, at the beginning of my end step, I can sacrifice a creature. If I do, I reveal cards from the top of the library until I reveal a non-legendary creature with lesser mana value, and that goes directly onto the battlefield. So this is a great way to get rid of something that I've attacked with and it's tapped. I can sacrifice it and then bring out something to defend. So solid card there. Hidetsugu, Devouring Chaos. Pay black, sacrifice a creature, scry 2. Or 2 in a red, tap, exile the top card of my library, and I can play that card this turn. If I exile a non-land card this way, he deals damage equal to the exiled card's mana value to any target. This is great because it does say play, so if a land comes off, I can play that land and I don't have to lose it. But as long as it's not a land, I'm at least dealing some damage to something. Body Dropper, 2 red and a black for a 2/2. When this thing gets a +1/+1 counter whenever you sacrifice something, and you can pay black and red to sacrifice something, and it also gets Menace until end of turn. Sidisi, Region of the Mire. I love this card. I'm hoping to get like a half dozen more copies of this because this one's insanely fun as a legendary. Tap, sacrifice a creature you control with mana value X other than itself. Return a creature from the graveyard with mana value X +1 to the battlefield. You can only do it at sorcery speed, which is disappointing, but otherwise, pretty good card. Novice Dissector goes well with that dissection kit. Pay 1 to sacrifice a creature other than this, and put a +1/+1 counter on target creature, again at sorcery speed. But 3/3 for 3 and a black, I'll take that. Plus he's a warlock, so he counts as one of those Outlaws. I just want to keep calling them criminals and mercenaries, but mercenaries is part of the Outlaws. Hobble Fiend, 1 and a red for a 2/1 with trample. Sacrifice another creature by paying 1, and you put a +1/+1 counter on it. Gormand, 4 and 2 black. When it comes into play, you have to sacrifice a creature. Flying, trample, 5/5, and when he enters, everybody else has to sacrifice a creature too. Bushmeat Poacher, pay 1, tap, sacrifice another creature. You gain life equal to the sacrificed creature's toughness, and you get to draw a card. Pretty great card there. And then the Dockside Chef that I accidentally showed you earlier. Pay 1 and a black, sacrifice another artifact or creature, draw a card. Pretty solid sack outlets all around there. Some good sock fodder. And now the stuff that likes to see everything die. Mayhem Devil, whenever a player sacrifices a permanent, this deals 1 damage to any target. Typically, I'm dealing it to players. Morbid Opportunist, 2 and a black. Whenever one or more other creatures die, I get to draw a card. Having one turn, but still, great way to get some extra stuff on my deck. Pyre Sledge Arsonist, 2 and a red. Pay 1 and tap this, and he deals X damage to any target, where X is the number of permanents I've sacrificed this turn. Garna Bloodfist Killed, 1 black and 2 red for a 4/3. Whenever another creature dies, I draw a card if it was attacking, otherwise it's going to deal 1 damage to each opponent. Judas Scourge Diva, 1 red black for a 2/2. Other creatures get +1/+0, and whenever a creature that isn't a token dies, she deals 1 damage to any target. Ogre Slumlord, 3 and 2 black. Whenever a non-token creature dies, I get to create a black rat creature token, and all my rats have Death Touch. Zoyoa Lava Tongue, Death Touch, 2/2 for 1 red and black. And each turn, if I've descended, I can make an opponent... Each turn, if I've descended, each opponent has a choice of either discarding a card or sacrificing a permanent. If they don't do either of those, it deals 3 damage to them. So, directly to their face. I was unable to keep getting copies of Sir Conrad, unfortunately, and I needed a few. So, on the other hand, I kind of like this art treatment. It is the Final Fantasy art treatment, of course, and the full art is kind of neat. It does definitely kind of resemble sort of like a Sir Conrad, definitely kind of armor style in like a futuristic way, I think. So I like it a lot. And he just does, of course, the Sir Conrad stuff. Whenever something goes into my graveyard, deals damage. When something goes into the graveyard from the library, deals damage. Whenever something comes out of my graveyard, deals damage. And I can make people mill cards. So, awesome. And finally, Butcher of Malakir. I really want to get a couple more copies of this card, to be honest. I think this card's insanely good. The mana cost is high, don't get me wrong, but as long as I can keep him on the battlefield, whenever he or another creature I control dies, everybody else has to sacrifice a creature. So basically, as long as I keep sacrificing all my stuff, everybody else is sacrificing their stuff alongside it. Now, you see me doing a lot of, like, crime-related stuff here. Like, I want to do crimes, but I don't seem to have a lot of crime-related cards, you're saying to me. And I'm saying to you in reply, yeah, about that. If I were to do a specific crime in red and black involving a lot of sacrificing, what kind of crime do you think I would want to do? I'm going to take a bite of this cookie and give you 10 seconds to think about it. Alright. Well, first off, we're going to start with the cards that aren't really the crime cards necessarily, but they still do some stuff that's neat. Fatal Grudge. I sacrifice a non-land permanent. Everybody else has to sacrifice a permanent that shares the same type as that permanent. And I get to draw a card. Shenanigans, 1 and a red. I get to destroy an artifact, and I can dredge 1 to bring this back to my hand anytime that I need to destroy somebody's artifact, so that's great. Xander's Pact, 4 and 2 black. Casualty 2, as long as I cast this, I can sacrifice a creature of power 2 or greater, and then I can copy it. And each opponent has to exile the top card of their library. I can cast spells from among those cards this turn. If I do, I pay life equal to that spell's mana value rather than paying its actual mana cost. So if I manage to copy this, I get 6 cards essentially, potentially, as long as they're not lands, which is pretty good. Victimize. Choose one of my cards, one of my creatures, sacrifice it, and then I get to bring 2 target creatures from my graveyard back to my hand. Or no, to the battlefield tapped. Even better. I forgot about that. And worthy cost, as additional cost, sacrifice a creature, exile target creature or planeswalker. For 1, it's great. Sorcery speed's the only downside, but still, I'm pretty happy with it. Twisted Fealty. And here's where we start the nonsense. So if you guessed that I'm going to be stealing all your stuff, good guess. There were a few hints with some of the creatures and some of the artifacts and stuff, but this is where you're definitely going to see me doing my thing. I have... How many cards are there here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I have 10 spells, not counting the artifact and the creature that I showed you earlier, that allow me to steal something from you. Typically a creature, which I am then planning to sacrifice before the end of the turn. Twisted Fealty, gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap that creature, gains haste until end of turn. Create a wicked roll attached to that creature, or attached to up to one target creature. And yeah, I love wicked rolls because when the creature that has the wicked roll dies, you're taking life. Each opponent loses 1 life. Yeah. Next up, Vengeful Possession, 2 in a red. Gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap it, gains haste. I can discard a card, and if I do, I get to draw a card. A lot of these come with a little extra bonus because they didn't want to be like the exact same card over and over again, which is kind of neat. So I tried to grab as many different bonuses as I could. Portent of Betrayal, 3 in a red. Gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap that creature, it gains haste until end of turn, and you get to scry 1. Claim the Firstborn, 1 red. Sorcery. Gain control of target creature with mana value 3 or less until end of turn. Untap that creature, it gains haste until end of turn. Enthrall to the Pit, 3 in a red, with a kicker 2 in a black. Gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap that creature, gains haste until end of turn. If the spell was kicked, sacrifice the creature at the beginning of next instead. So if I don't have another way to sacrifice it, this spell comes with 1 already built in. Act of Treason, the classic. And I have the hollow one for this deck. Gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap that creature, gains haste until end of turn. This is basically the one that kicked off all the other ones, I think. But I'm not 100% sure on that, but that just feels like it is the one that probably was the initial version of this mechanic. Furnace Reigns, 2 in a red. Gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap that creature until end of turn, it gains haste. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player or a battle, I get to make a treasure token. Involuntary Employment, 3 in a red. Gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap that creature, it gains haste until end of turn. Create a treasure token. Traitorous Instinct, 3 in a red. Gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap that creature until end of turn. It gets +2/+0 and gains haste. And finally, Tentative Connection, 3 in a red. This spell costs 3 less to cast if you control a creature with menace already, which I think there's a few that have menace in this deck, but not a lot. And gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap that creature, gains haste until end of turn. So yes, I have 10 unique sorceries in here, plus the apple over here, and at least 1 creature. I think there might be 2 even. Let me steal something. Definitely 1. The devil. Was there another one? No, it's not looking like it. Okay, but that's still 12 different ways I can steal a creature from your board, sacrifice it, and get benefits for sacrificing it at the end of my turn. Now, I've shown you many different ways to sacrifice, and we've been discussing red and black and its outlaws, and what outlaw could possibly be the most awesome outlaw to commander this deck, while also fulfilling all the stuff that I want to do with this deck. By far, I'm sure you've guessed by now, but just in case, I give to you Rakdos the Muscle. 2 black and a red. Flying Trample 6/5. Big beefy boy. Whenever you sacrifice another creature, you exile cards from the top, or equal to its mana value, from the top of target player's library. Until your next end step, you can play those cards, and mana of any type can be spent to cast those spells. Otherwise, they just remain in exile. And sacrifice another creature, tap this guy, he gains indestructible until end of turn. You can only do it once per turn, but great way if you don't attack with your commander to get rid of whatever you brought on board from somebody else's board. So yeah, essentially, I'm going to steal all your stuff. I'm going to sacrifice all your stuff. I'm going to put all your stuff into exile. And you're going to hate me for it. Make a bunch of tokens whenever stuff dies, so my board is always full. And, yeah. That is everyone must die. Or nobody survives. Or whatever it was I called it. I will remember what I called it when I look it up on Architect later. Pretty sure it was no one will survive. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this deck. And I'm going to pass it along to future me now to give you guys the outro. But before I do, one more shot of the Kyla kid who is just fed up with me for the night and ready for this shit to go end. Alright guys, thanks for tuning in to the Sunday video. See you at the end, and see you on Monday.